Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron here today. We're going to look at why I love Israel. Now, I had the privilege of going to the nation of Israel in June of 2010. But I love Israel. I love the Israeli people. Love the Jewish people. Now, there is a massive rise in anti-Semitism. Let's go over some of the arguments why this is. First of all, there is a group out there that says none of the Jews, or almost none of the Jews that are currently alive, are in any way descendants of Abraham, that they were converted from the Khazarian Empire in the 8th and 9th century AD, and that their bloodline does not, again, consist to any Hebraic lineage. Maybe the Sephardic Jews do from Spain, this type thing, but most of the other ones, and so they're Khazarians. And they're, it's kind of all over the internet. The Khazarians are attacking and all this. Well, I know there's been some DNA studies that say that. There's been other DNA studies that go back and say, no, that does go back to Abraham, it does go back to David, it does go back to people from the Middle East. But, so we love Jewish people, and these are followers of Jesus Christ. Now, this is not to say, because we don't get into identity politics at all, that every Jew is a good person. Just as every person of every ethnicity. You can't paint with broad brushes. That is the height of ignorance and bad thinking, that you have to take each individual, regardless of the melatonin in their skin, their ethnicity, where they grew up, as individuals, as to what qualities, what character traits they would have that would be positive, or those that would be anti-scriptural, and this type of thing would breed negative into the world. And so this is not to say that every Jew is a good person, but the Israeli people are still God's chosen people. And there's going to come a day where God's going to turn back to the Jews for 7 years. This is known as the time of Jacob's trouble, or the tribulation period. And so God, even though right now he's kind of turned his back on Israel, there's still a 70th week of Daniel where he's going to show mercy. If you plan on going to heaven, what's the New Jerusalem going to have on each door? It's going to have the names of the 12 tribes of Israel on there. So it's obvious God has not cast them off. Now, on the flip side, there's people that say every Jew is going to be saved just because they're a Jew, and there's no conversion. Now, we don't believe in coercion, and we don't believe in forced conversion, but in the free flow of ideas, talking to people about Jesus Christ and the claims that he made, and whether that's a valid belief system or not, well, we believe there should be freedom of thought, freedom to be able to convert from one belief system to another belief system. Again, we're not into identity politics here. That we believe in the free flow of ideas, in the marketplace of ideas. We would say, correctly understood, that the gospel of Jesus Christ is everything, and that it is valid, and that it is provable from history, and that it is the way God has chosen for the salvation of mankind. The other hand, people that disagree with that, we don't persecute them, we love them. We love all people. And we would pray for them, and they don't have to know we're praying for them. We don't just go up and lay hands on them or something, but we're praying for them because we want God's best. We believe that's God's best in their life. So God has not turned his back on the Jewish nation. That's very clear from Matthew 24, and it's very clear from Revelation chapter 14. In the tribulation period in Revelation chapter 7, there's 12,000 from each tribe of Israel that are marked. There's going to be evidently a rapture of saved Israelites there in Revelation 14. Let's look at this in the book of Romans. Paul, he says, well, what advantage then hath the Jew? He says, much in every way, that this is our root system. And then he talks about a great revival coming into Israel. He said, for if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? So it seems like when there's a great revival in Israel, there's going to be a tremendous resurrection. There's going to be a catching away of the church, so to speak. So there are some that don't think Israel exists. There's some that feel like Israel, there's some big Jewish Masonic plot to control the world, and the Jews have rejected Jesus, which they have by and large, but you can't paint with a broad brush. There's many Jewish Christians out there, and we're all saved by the same gospel. There's not two gospels, one for the Jew, one for the Gentile. The book of Acts, other scriptures totally obliterate that. Could you imagine having 2,000 years ago do blood tests to see if you're an 8th Jew, 16th Jew, 4th Jew. At what point do you get this gospel? Peter and Paul had different gospels. I mean, it's just insanity. And but unfortunately, it's a false doctrine that's out there. And so, but Jews can be saved through Jesus Christ, but many Jews have rejected. So many people would say the Jews, they're the ones that fight against the Christmas season and all of this. Well, friend, I'm going to tell you there's a lot of atheists out there that are fighting against the Christmas season that are not Jewish. And this type thing. So you just can't paint with a broad brush. God does love the Jewish people. Not all Jewish people are going to be saved. There is going to be a tremendous revival amongst certain segments of Jews and Judaism. And see, then there's differentiation. Is it a racial Jew? Is it a religious Jew? This type thing. But God bless the Jewish people. So the reason I love Israel is because God loves Israel. God has not turned his back on Israel. And Paul would admonish the Gentiles, do things for the Jews, encourage them. We know that God has supernaturally put them back in their own land. Now, that is not to deny the plight of Palestinians, hurts, pains that they have, and many Palestinians, Christians. Bethlehem used to be very much a Christian city in a lot of ways, and now it's down to like an eighth or less Christians in Bethlehem. And I've been to Bethlehem. I've met a pastor who was stabbed 7 times over there, this type thing. But again, we just tend to paint with broad brushes that Syrians are bad, Iranians are bad. No, many Iranians love the United States of America. Some would not. Some Syrians. And we can't say what the government does is representative of the people, because that's not always the truth. Syria has many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Christians in it. And this type thing. So I love the Jewish people. That's why I love Israel, because God loves Israel. There's been many dozens of prophecies fulfilled in our day, in the last 75, 80 years, of the Jews getting their homeland back. And to me, it's pointing to looking up, for our redemption draws nigh. So to Jew, Gentile alike, Greek, barbarian alike, regardless of ethnicity, Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. We want you to receive him. He is your Messiah, and he has come to save you. I'm glad about it. In Jesus' name.